The leaves are bare. Before you know it, we're going to be cracking out our snowshoes. In this video, I'm going to give you 5 tips for hiking in the winter. My name's Mike, and this is Outside Chronicles. I love everything outside, and if you do too, click that subscribe button, hit that bell so you don't miss any videos. Tip number 1 is hydration. You don't really feel like drinking on a winter hike like you do on a summer hike. You don't get that parched feeling in your mouth, but it's really important to continue taking in fluids. You are sweating underneath your clothes even though you may not feel it, and also all of that moisture coming out of your mouth via respiration is coming out of your body that you need to replenish. So make sure you make a conscious effort to drink fluids. So since water freezes, using a Camelback isn't advisable. Usually the water in the actual bladder in your pack will stay not frozen for a while, but what happens is this tube freezes up. You can kind of get away with it for a while by blowing back the water back into the bladder from the tube, but eventually this will freeze, and once it freezes, there's really nothing you can do other than maybe put it in your jacket and try to unfreeze it. So I'd advise not using a Camelback. My suggestion is using something like a hydro flask. These are vacuum sealed and they'll keep it hot and cold for a long time. So you can start your hike either with cold water in here and it'll stay unfrozen for a while. Even better, start with hot water in here or even some tea, and you're guaranteed to keep your water unfrozen for a long time on the hike. If you don't have a hydro flask and you only have a Nalgene, I got 2 tips. Number 1 is store this guy upside down, because what'll happen is the water will freeze from the top down and you'll still be able to open up the lid and use whatever water's not frozen. And tip number 2 is just put a wool sock over your Nalgene. This will insulate it and keep it from freezing for even longer. So in your pack upside down and a wool sock, and you should be good to go for quite a while in the winter. Tip 2, traction systems. These come in 2 varieties. I suggest microspikes. These are Catula microspikes. They fit very easily over any boot and provide a lot of traction on icy conditions. Very small to just throw in your pack. The second piece of traction is snowshoes. My favorites are the MSR Evo line or any other more expensive MSR snowshoes. They have this extra rail for traction in addition to the normal crampons. These guys are awesome. I use them in the White Mountains, I use them in the Adirondacks, and they've never failed me so far. They've got great bindings, great traction, and they're not too expensive. I think they're about $125. Great investment. Tip number 3 is your clothing and insulation. Layering is so important in the winter. You want to have a wicking layer as your base layer, and then you layer up from there depending on how cold it is. What you really want to do is prevent yourself from sweating, and that's why you have multiple layers. So you can change out layers based on how cold or hot your body is. My suggestion is to always start a hike a little bit cool. A little fewer layers. You're going to be cold for the first few minutes, but then once your body starts working on the hike, you're going to be fine. So many times I've started a hike with the layers that I thought I needed, and 15 minutes into the hike, I'm pulling off different layers. In the winter, there's multiple systems. You can go with a base layer and then like a fleece, then have either a puffy jacket and a shell. That's like a 4-layer system. You could try a 3-layer system. You got to find out what works for your body, and it's always going to be different based on the temperature. But the number 1 rule is stay away from cotton. Cotton doesn't wick moisture, and definitely in the cold, you're going to feel that moisture against your skin, and it's going to cause you to be even colder. And depending on the condition, a couple other suggestions is take some sunglasses or ski glasses if it's very windy. The snow reflects a lot of the light, and you can actually get snow blindness pretty easy in the winter. So make sure you at least have sunglasses. And if it's kind of windy, you don't want your eyes to get scoured, having ski goggles is also recommended. Number 4 revolves around planning. Remember, in the winter, the days are shorter and your travel is always slower in the snow. So a trail that maybe took you 2 hours to do before might take you 2.5 or 3 hours now. So knowing when sunrise and sunset are and that your pace is going to be slower is really important in the winter. And tip number 5, and this tip goes for winter or summer, is always let somebody know where you're going. The consequences, if something goes wrong in the winter, are much higher. You're gonna get hypothermia quicker, go into shock quicker in the winter if you do have an accident. So make sure somebody that you can rely on knows where you're going to be hiking, how long you're gonna be, and then check in with them after the hike. And finally, I also recommend having some sort of emergency shelter. I love these small little bivvies. They're kind of like a space blanket that looks like a sleeping bag. They come in 1 person and 2 person. They're very small, they're light, and they're inexpensive. Just in case you get into trouble, these things might be able to save your life. Also, I recommend a tarp of some sort that you can make a shelter out of. This Arcturus tarp is very, very strong, can withstand the wind. It has very strong grommets. Both could be vital depending on where you are hiking. If you're in a very remote area, to have proper emergency shelter. So those are my 5 tips to help you not only enjoy hiking in the winter, but also stay safe hiking in the winter. And if you like this video, be sure you click that like button. And if you want to see more videos like this, I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe to my channel by clicking that subscribe button, hitting that bell. That's it for now. I'll see you guys outside.